Hello and welcome to the David Pakman Show. I am producer Pat Ford filling in for David today. In fact, David is turning 40 today, so he is spending some time with the family, doing a little vacation. So everyone make sure to reach out to David and wish him a very happy birthday. A little programming note, Luke Beasley is going to be hosting the show on Monday, and then David will be back on Tuesday. So let's get into some stories. There is this new Reuters Ipsos poll that shows that President Joe Biden's approval rating is sitting at a dismal 38% right now. Now, this particular poll had Biden at 40% approval back in December of 2023, so that shows that he has dropped another 2 points in the month of January. President Biden, as we know, enjoyed very high approval numbers at the start of his presidency, high 50s, low 60s, depending on the poll. Of course, that was around the time that voters were very, very aware and focused on Trump's bogus voter fraud claims and the attempted coup against the country, which combined with a general sentiment that the country feels often, which is that we should give new presidents a chance. And that all contributed to Joe Biden's high poll numbers back then. However, ever since Biden has been dealing with declining approval ratings, it's been below 50% on average ever since August 2021, which obviously is raising apprehensions within the Democratic Party regarding his re-election prospects in November. The poll asked voters about some specific issues as well, highlighting a notable uptick in concern about immigration. Many of these polls find that America views immigration as the number one issue in the country right now. 17% of respondents in this particular poll marked it as the most significant issue facing the United States. This represents an increase from 11% back in December, and it has been the primary concern for Republicans, surpassing worries about the economy. Now, despite the heightened concern about immigration, the economy retains its position as the foremost worry among Americans in this particular Reuters poll, with 22% of respondents expressing anxiety. This economic unease is linked to challenges such as inflation, lingering effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, and many other things. And even 47% of Democrats right now feel that America is on the wrong track. So when we look at all these numbers, it's obviously frustrating. You have to wonder how many of these respondents who say that they disapprove of Biden's job performance and they're very concerned about the border and inflation, how many of those people know that Biden and Democrats actually had a tentative deal in place with Republicans to do something that was, by all accounts, pretty drastic on the topic of immigration, until Donald Trump killed the bill because he wanted to keep it as an issue that he could campaign on. You also have to wonder how many of these respondents who said that they don't like Biden and they're concerned about the economy, how many of those respondents realize that there are plenty of other economic indicators that show that the economy is actually doing relatively strong. Surely inflation has been a concern over the past couple of years, but it has been under control now for many months. And we also know that Biden really isn't the person to blame when it comes to inflation. We should be pointing the finger at corporate greed, reluctance from the Federal Reserve to raise interest rates during the pandemic. Even Trump's trade war contributed to inflation in this country, and inflation was something that was going on all around the world, so it doesn't really make all that much sense to say that Joe Biden is the reason for it. But I get it. People are often ignorant of these details, and the president tends to get the blame when it comes to economic struggles, even when it's undeserved. At this point, we have 9 months to turn these numbers around. Some people are saying that we need to switch out Biden for a different candidate. I don't believe that's going to happen, especially with voting already underway. He almost certainly will be the nominee unless he drops out over a health issue or something like that. I don't see that happening. I should also mention how Biden is doing in the aggregate polling. So we're not just looking at one particular poll and cherry picking, but the aggregate polling actually does paint a similar picture. 538 shows 39.3% support for Biden with 39.3% support for Biden. Yes, that's correct. And then 5.4% 54.5% disapproving. And then looking at Donald Trump's approval numbers, he has slightly better numbers. He has 43.1% favorability and 52.2% disapproving. And when it comes to the general election matchup of Biden versus Trump, most of the polls show Trump up slightly. The Real Clear Politics average is Trump up 1.7%. Now, that doesn't sound so bad, but remember, we pick presidents based on the Electoral College, and it's not based on the will of the people in this country. So we actually want to see Biden up a few percentage points going into Election Day because the Electoral College tends to favor Republicans. Remember, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote in 2016 by 2 percentage points, but she still lost the Electoral College rather decisively. So this all suggests that there is work to be done. We need to make a stronger case on the economy. We need to make a stronger case on immigration. And whatever the top concerns of voters at any given time may be, we have to be vocal and talk about how Democrats are actually working to fix the problems, whereas Republicans are just trying to keep these as issues to run on in the 2024 election. We need to make sure that we have all of our surrogates on the ground. I'm talking Barack Obama, Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, Michelle Obama, maybe even pop stars like Taylor Swift, who Republicans have been targeting recently. We're going to talk about her later on in the show. And we obviously have to make the case against Trump. It really shouldn't be all that hard to do. The guy, after all, risks going to prison in 2024. He's facing 91 felony counts. He tried to end the democratic process in the United States. He puts himself before the country time and time again. It really shouldn't be all that hard to defeat this guy, but it doesn't mean that we can take it as a given, especially looking at these poll numbers. We're actually behind if you look at these poll numbers right now. So the hope is that as time goes on, as we get closer to the election, the gap between Biden and Trump will narrow as people start to pay more attention to the general election race. There's also that poll that shows that 20% of Americans, only 20%, would support Donald Trump if he's convicted of a felony. Now, if it actually happens, we may see higher support for him despite that because of the right-wing media sphere running, defending him at every turn, circling the wagons. So there is the potential that he is convicted this year at some point, and that dramatically reduces his chances at winning, but we can't just assume that's going to happen, and we have to make sure that we're actively making the case for Joe Biden and for electing Democrats. So this may all sound like hopium. I understand. I'm not trying to get people high on hopium or anything like that. I'm just pointing out that while the numbers look concerning right now, we do have time to turn this thing around, but we have to take a multifaceted approach combined with circumstances outside of our control, like the Trump criminal trials. Things can turn around, and we'll see if that does take place.
Let me tell you about something I use every day just because it's a way I can simplify my life. And I'm looking for simple these days. I don't always perfectly plan every meal and calculate every vitamin and mineral and micro. I get close, but the reason I turn to our sponsor AG1 is that it makes it easy. Every morning before my cappuccino, I have a scoop of AG1 mixed into water. I get the 75 vitamins and minerals that I want from whole food sourced ingredients, and it's just so easy. You can't find a more comprehensive powder supplement on the market. I get my daily nutrients. I increase my vitamin, mineral, and antioxidant intake. AG1 is just easier and it's more cost effective than dealing with dozens of vitamin bottles and the whole thing. Just simplify things for yourself with AG1. 1 scoop a day, get your nutritional bases covered. I recommend AG1 to friends. Many of them have picked it up and love it. Try AG1, get a free year's supply of vitamin D3 and K2, plus 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase at drinkag1.com/Pacman. The link is down below.